In this video, we'll be setting up the deployment of our event serverless microservice using AWS SAM and GitHub Actions. Welcome back to another video of Serverless DevWidgets. In this video, we're going to continue our journey creating our event serverless microservice. If you want to get some details of what we're trying to build, click on the link up above and you can see the plan that we have developed. Today, we are specifically going to work on creating a skeleton application using AWS SAM templates. And we are also going to be creating our pipeline using the new AWS SAM pipeline command, as well as GitHub Actions. Before we get started, I'm making a couple assumptions. One is you've already created an AWS account. Two, you have already set up your AWS CLI access, you've downloaded it, you know your way around terminal, and you have set up your credentials so you can make AWS calls. The other assumption I'm making is you already have a GitHub account. You also have your credentials for that set up so that you can clone projects and push projects to, let's say, a private repo on your GitHub account. So let's get started. All right, the first thing that we're gonna do is we are gonna create our GitHub repository. Let's pick a name. I swear 80% of programming is coming up with the right name. In this case, I am going to be simple and we're just gonna write events. And it's available. All right, I'm gonna set this to private. I am not gonna create any of these files because when you do, it can cause some issues trying to merge your local SAM init with what is in GitHub. So for now, we're just gonna keep it a very empty project. Let's do create. It's gonna give us some quick steps here on how to connect our project and then go from there. All right, so let's jump over to terminal and let's create our project, our skeleton project using sam init. All right, so we set up our GitHub project. The next thing we're gonna do is run our sam init. So I am going to navigate into my development folder. Whatever structure you have is fine. I have a development folder, and in that development folder, I have a microservices folder. So here I am going to run sam init. And when I run sam init, I'm going to answer a series of questions, and then it is going to create a folder that has all my file structure that I need. So sam init. We're going to do one, use a quick start template. Let's not complicate our lives. The next thing we're going to choose is what kind of package is it going to create. So in this case, we're just going to create a zip with all of our class files and all of our dependencies. And if you've been following along in the plan, you know that we are choosing Java as our development environment. I'm going to choose Gradle, and I'm going to call my project events. So now it's cloning the sam-cli templates, and from that we get to choose one of these templates to create our skeleton app. So I'm going to be very simple here, and I'm going to do the typical hello world. All right, so it's created an events directory. We can now navigate into that and do ls, and we can see we have this hello world function, we have a readme file, and all the different files, directories, etc. that we need. All right, now let's connect our local project here with what we created in GitHub. The first thing we're gonna do is we are gonna do git init, and we are gonna name our branch main. We're gonna spell it correctly. Enter. Then we are going to paste our first command from our GitHub project here. So copy, paste, enter. Beautiful. Then after we set our remote, we're gonna set our main branch, and then we are going to push our project. Actually, no, we're not gonna push just yet. We are going to commit first. So let's go here. We're gonna do a git status, and we can see nothing has been staged. So we're gonna do git add everything here, nothing complicated. We're going to do git commit message, and we are going to be very creative and say initial commit. Enter. Beautiful. So now we are going to do that push. So we copy. Let's go back, enter, and everything gets pushed. All right, great job. So 2 things we've done. We created our skeleton application, and then we connected it to a project in GitHub. The third thing that we have to do now is actually set up our pipeline. So there's a new command that AWS sam-cli now supports, which is the sam pipeline bootstrap and sam pipeline init. So sam pipeline bootstrap is going to create all the necessary users that we need on AWS to be able to run our pipeline. So let's do that first. So sam pipeline bootstrap. I hope I'm remembering that correctly. It is not. Of course I didn't remember that correctly. So let's try that again. Actually, I think it's without the pipeline, without the dash. It's not an argument. Pipeline bootstrap. Let's see. Enter. Yes, we got it. So the first stage that we are going to have in our pipeline is the test stage. So let's go here and write test. Let's pick our test environment, which is number 6. All right, so enter the region. The default region is US East 1. I'm going to press enter and accept that. I'm going to let it also create my IAM user, press enter. I'm going to let it create my execution role, enter, and it's going to also create my CloudFormation execution role and enter. Lastly, I'm also going to let it create the S3 bucket that it uploads my code to then be able to apply that code to Lambda. And we're going to press enter. So does your application contain an image? No, it's not. We are going to upload a zip file, not an image. So we press enter. We're going to verify all of our details here. Nothing really needs to be changed. I'm pressing enter to confirm this. All right, and should we proceed with the creation? And we are going to confirm and say yes. So it is using the credentials that I have set up locally to be able to call my AWS account. It is running literally a CloudFormation template. With that CloudFormation template, it is going to create my multiple resources. If you remember, it was a pipeline user. It's then going to create my pipeline execution role, then my CloudFormation execution role, the S3 bucket that it will use to upload my files. So this is going to take a few minutes. We are going to speed up the clock. You can pause this video, wait until yours is done, and then we'll be back. All right, we're back. Our CloudFormation template has completed. You'll see in the output screen, it says everything's successfully completed. We have the following resources that were created, and then we have our secrets. So this secrets, we are actually going to save it to GitHub into our secrets file, because obviously this is something you would never want to commit into your actual version control system. We really want this to be secret. All right. And so now, and I'm going to leave this here on the screen. We are going to go and continue and create our prod stage environments. And then we will copy these details into GitHub and then go from there. All right. So we created our test resources. Now we're going to run the SAM pipeline bootstrap again to be able to create our prod resources. So let's press enter. We are going to call this prod. Press enter. We are going to again go through the same questions we had here. In this case, the credentials I am going to choose is number 7, which is DevWidgets prod. So we press 7, we press enter. It shows us the account ID. Make sure that that's exactly what you expect. Again, the region is going to say the same. So US East 1. We are going to let it create the pipeline execution role, press enter. We are going to let it create the CloudFormation execution role, press enter. We are going to let it again create the S3 bucket in production. And we're going to get asked the same question again. Is our deployment going to be an image or a zip file? So it is not going to be an image. So we are going to press no and then enter. So let's confirm the couple things we have here. One thing that you can note here, and honestly, I find this a little odd, is that it doesn't create a new pipeline user. Instead, what it does is it reuses the same pipeline user that you created when you bootstrapped the test account. And then when it creates that pipeline execution role, it has a trusted entity, I forget the exact word, in production, and it sets that to your test pipeline user and your test AWS account. Personally, I think that's a little weird. I would have had 2 separate accounts. But we are going to use these tools because they do a lot of the heavy lifting for us, and then we can always go back and tweak things. So we are going to press enter. It's again confirming the things that it's going to create. We are going to say yes, please create that, and press enter. That is going to take a while. Go ahead, feel free to pause the video while yours is running, and we'll be back when it is complete. All right, we're back. Our production resources have been created, and we can view those definitions here in this file. Let's go back to GitHub, and we're going to now save our credentials to our GitHub account. So I'm going to scroll up to where the credentials were outputted to the screen. Here we go. And these are the details that we're going to copy. So copy. Let's switch over to GitHub. And we are going to settings. Then we're going to scroll down to secrets. Then we are going to create a new repository secret. So I'm going to go here. Remember, this is using the same credentials when it runs in the test stage as well as when it runs in the prod stage. If you decide to go and make the modification to have 2 separate credentials for your test account and your prod account, feel free to do so. And the name that you add here might be, instead of AWS access key, it might be like test_access key or something to that effect. I'm using the same credentials, so access key ID, and here is the key ID, and we're gonna just remove this. We're gonna do Command X so that we can paste it later on, and we're gonna add secret. So you can see that here. If we go to update, you won't be able to see the values, so that it's very private. So even if somebody gets a hold of your account, which God forbid they do, if they do get a hold of your account, they won't be able to see that value. All right, so we're gonna do a new repository. Let's go paste this, pull this up here, paste, remove all our extra spaces, add secret. And so now we have our 2 secrets saved, and we are ready to move forward. We completed storing our secrets. The next command that we need to run is actually sam-pipeline init. And so that is going to create the actual pipeline file. So sam-pipeline init, enter, and we are going to use their quick start. Let's not complicate our lives just yet. We are going to select number 3 for GitHub Actions. And now it's explaining to you that it's going to be a 2-stage pipeline. There is stage 1 and stage 2. So we are going to configure those 2 stages. It'll ask us a few questions. The very first thing is, what did we save our secret as? So if you're using 2 separate credentials for both of your accounts, this is the opportunity where you might change it. I did not do that. I'm using 1 credentials, and it's this exact same default value. So I'm just going to press enter. Same thing with our AWS secret access key, press enter. All right, so what is the Git branch used for the production deployments? Right now, we're gonna keep it as main. I don't really need to type anything here, and I can just press enter. Also, where is our CloudFormation template file? Again, we used our Hello World example from sam-cli, and their template file that they created is template.yaml, this default option here. So we're going to press enter. Now we're going to choose what is our first stage. So in this case, our first stage is the test environment. And now it's going to ask us, all right, what is our CloudFormation template name? What is that stack name? And we are going to say events. Press enter. And then now we're going to select our stage 2. So our stage 2 is going to be prod. We press 2 and press enter. Again, it's going to ask us, what is our stack name? If you were using one account and not two account, then the stack name would have been like events-test, and then the next stack name would have been events-prod. In my case, I'm using two separate accounts, so I can call these exactly the same stack name. So we press enter, and it's now created our pipeline. If you scroll through this, I know it might be a little hard to read because it's quite a lot of content, but if you scroll through this, you'll see all the questions that it asked us, all the values that it applied, and it pulled some details from a local AWS file that was created when we ran the SAM pipeline bootstrap. So let's take a quick look at our file. So let's go, let's enter, and let's see what it created. So it's the first section is on what action. So on any push that happens to any of these two branches, whether it's main or it's a branch that starts with feature. Then it refers to our secret here for any environmental variables that are needed through the execution. Now, one thing that you notice that I don't necessarily agree with is that it has our full ARN located here for our pipeline execution role. I think that is not wise to check that into your pipeline. Change this to a secret. Back at our terminal window, we saved all those secrets. We updated our pipeline file. Let's do a quick git status. I'm not going to commit the AWS SAM directory. That has all my ARNs and different resources that were created to be able to create the pipeline. That's specific to my account, and those secrets are stored in GitHub. I do, however, need to commit the GitHub directory. So now all we have to do is add that file. So git add, and then GitHub workflows pipeline. And then let's commit it. So git commit message pipeline definition, and we're going to press enter. Now we're going to push our project. The next thing we need to do is take a look at actions. And we can see that a pipeline is currently running in it. So let's click into it, and we can see that it's in progress. Now, there was a set of jobs that were defined in that pipeline for us by the sam-cli. It first ran all our unit tests. It's now in the process of build and packaging. We can click into this and see what it's doing at this precise moment. And you can kind of scroll and to see all the steps that it had to run, any requirements that it had to download. And now it's running our build step. All right, so while our pipeline is running, let's talk about a few things that it's doing. In the first step, it's testing our Java code. In our skeleton application, I don't know if you noticed, there was one test file and one Lambda file, Java class, I should say. And so in that first step, it ran that one test file. The next step, it uses sam build to be able to create our zip file that gets uploaded to our S3 bucket. it will then use sam-deploy command to then deploy our application to the test environment. At that point, it's going to run our integration tests. Assuming that our integration tests are all successful, it is then going to deploy to production. Now, at this point, there might be some changes you want to make. Maybe you're not comfortable with every time that you make a change, as long as it passes unit tests and E2E tests or integration tests, that it goes to production. You might want to add something like, if I tag a specific commit with the release tag, at that point and only then is it going to deploy to production, right? Or you might want to have a manual step that somebody has to actually go and say, I approve this commit to go to production. For now, we're just trying to get up and running and get started. So it is going to go all the way to production as long as our tests run and our integration tests run. So you can see that our deploy test is completed. Let's click on deploy test and let's go to the outputs. So let's see, where is it? Deploy test, here we go. And we will see everything that it went through to deploy our CloudFormation template, all the resources that were created. And then if we keep scrolling, see here are the events. If we keep scrolling, we should see our outputs. All right, so here is our API. Let's copy this. So here I ran the output URL from our test environment. We can see hello world and a specific IP address. Let's go back to our pipeline. Oh, look, production has completed. Let's scroll down to our deploy to production. Again, let's scroll all the way down to our outputs. Here we go. You can already see that this is a different URL. And then we're going to run that. All right, so we run that production URL. And again, we got hello world and a different IP address. So now we're going to create a feature branch so that you can see how it can also deploy your feature branches for testing without actually pushing your code to the main branch. So we're gonna do git checkout -b. We're gonna call this feature slash, let's call it proxy URL, enter. All right, so we switched to our new branch. Let's change our template. So I'm going to go to vim template.yaml and we are going to change our URL. So if we scroll down to our API here, instead of hello, we're going to change this to proxy all requests. So insert, that's the I. We're going to go here, proxy. I don't remember if the plus is inside or outside. I think it's inside. But you know what? We're pushing to a branch. We're gonna push it, see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll change it. But I think it's on the inside. So save, quit, enter. So git add template, git commit message, and we're gonna say update to proxy URL, enter, git push. So we don't have a branch in GitHub, no big deal. It tells us the command we have to run. We're gonna copy and paste that and press enter. So let's just go and look at our pipeline. All right, if you can see, our pipeline is running. Update to proxy URL. Let's go ahead and click on it and see what's happening. And if you notice, it automatically is going to skip the other steps that we saw before. For example, build and package, deploy to test, integration test, deploy to prod. And instead, it drops over here to the build and deploy feature. And so what build and deploy feature is going to do is it's going to build our It's going to build our code. It's going to create a zip file. It's going to create a CloudFormation stack with the name of our commit message. And then it is going to deploy that only to our test environment. We'll wait a few minutes for this to complete and then test the output. Okay, so our project has completed deploying our feature branch. We're gonna go and get the output of that. Here, deploy. Let's scroll down to our outputs. Here we go. Copy. So we got our message, hello world. To show that our proxy URL is working, we can put nonsense here like blah, press enter. Again, it's still gonna return that same hello world. And to show you that something did change, let's go back to a previous pipeline that ran, which was on our main branch. And we are going to go and look at our outputs again. So here's our deploy to test account. Let's scroll down to the output value. You can see that this URL is different from this URL. We're going to paste that here, press enter. It's probably taking a few minutes because my Lambda is cold. And then to also confirm that the change that we just made to support any URL path is not in our test environment, let's change this to blah. And as you see, we get a very generic error message from AWS. So you can see that our test environment does not have the changes that we just committed to our branch, and we are done. If you have been following along, you now have a very plain vanilla Hello World application that you were able to create with the AWS sam-cli. You also have a pipeline that will be able to deploy your changes to a test and a production environment, as well as deploy any branches that you might have to the test environment. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you enjoyed and actually got something out of this video. If you would like to learn more, continue this journey, definitely subscribe so you can get a notification. As always, you can reach out to me on Twitter or comment down below and I'll do my best to respond. Most importantly, happy coding.